Hi guys, my name's Ian, an English teacher and IELTS tutor from the UK, and today I want to answer one very important question that many people overlook when it comes to the IELTS. And that question is, how should I take the IELTS exam? Should I take it on computer or should I take the paper-based version? Now, this is a really important question because how you take the test can actually have a real impact on your score. So let's go over some of the important points of both the paper and computer-based test that can help you decide on how you should take this test. Looking at the 4 different sections of the test, writing, reading, listening, and speaking, there are big differences between the computer and paper version of the test for 2 of these sections, the writing and the reading. So talking about the writing first. When it comes to writing, the first thing you need to think about is, are you better at typing or writing on paper? Of course, on the computer, you're typing, and on paper, you're writing. Now, not only is it important to think about how good you are at typing or writing, it's also important to think about the other aspects of the writing test. One key aspect of the writing test is that you need to write a minimum of 250 words. And of course, if you are writing on paper, you need to count the words that you are writing. Whereas on computer, there is a word count in the corner of the screen. So this saves you quite a lot of time. So if you're the kind of person that is struggling to do your writing tasks within 1 hour, and you're struggling to have enough time to count your words, taking the test on computer can help you solve this problem. Now, the other reason why taking a test on computer and paper is different when it comes to the writing exam is the fact that on computer, when you're typing, of course, it's much easier to change and to adapt what you are writing as you go along. When you're writing on paper, if you want to change something later on, if you've made a mistake or you want to add something, you have to cross things out, you have to stick things in. Your writing ends up looking a bit of a mess, and it's not as easy to edit as it is on a computer. So this is also something you should bear in mind when thinking about taking the test on computer or on paper. Secondly, when it comes to the reading part of the test, the reading is exactly the same on paper and on computer, but many people prefer to do the paper version of the reading because when you have the paper version of the reading, you have your reading paper here with your questions and your answer paper. And on paper, it's very easy to flick through and to look at one bit, to go to the next page, compare it, and things like this. Whereas on computer, you have to flick through one screen to the next screen, scroll up, scroll down. It gets very sort of annoying, frustrating, can be quite confusing. And for most people, it's easier to have paper in front of them and look, from page to page. And also, on paper, of course, you can take your pen or your pencil and you can underline things, you can circle things, you can make notes. Whereas on computer, although you can still make notes on a piece of paper, you can't annotate the reading. You can't highlight things so easily. So this is another key point to think about when you're choosing between the paper and computer test. Talking about the other sections of the test, listening and reading, the listening test is the same test on computer and on paper, but of course, you don't have the extra 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the piece of the answer sheet. You only have 30 minutes to listen, complete your answers, and you put in the answers on computer. So this can sometimes add another level of challenge to the listening test. Because not only are you listening reading the question, thinking, and then trying to put your answer down in writing, in this case in typing. But you also have the added kind of skill, let's say, of scrolling, of moving the mouse, clicking through, which requires, even if it's just a tiny, tiny bit, requires another little extra bit of brain power compared to when you're just writing the answer on paper. So these three or these differences that I've talked about are things that you should think about when you're deciding whether to take the IELTS test on computer or on paper. I recommend that you try taking the test, like a practice test, on paper and on computer several times before you book the test to find out which one works for you. For me, I always prefer the paper test because I really struggle to do the reading test when it's on a computer and I can't highlight things and circle things and make annotations on the writing, or on the reading text. Whereas many of my students prefer doing it on computer because they can type better than they can write. And like I said, they don't have to count the words. So it's really a personal choice, but it can really affect your score in the IELTS. Because if, for the reasons we've talked about, if you struggle to answer reading questions or struggle to complete the reading part of the test because you're constantly flicking through pages on the computer and you can't highlight things, then your score will be lower. Likewise, if you struggle to write and count your words, your writing score could be lower. So it's something really important to think about. And finally, one last thing is very, very occasionally, some institutes, some places that require you to pass the IELTS actually demand that you score a slightly higher score on the computer version of the test. But this is not so common, but it's worth bearing in mind. So guys, thank you very much for listening. It was just a quick video to give you this advice that I was thinking about today. Like I said, I'm an English teacher, an IELTS tutor from the UK, and if you're interested in one-on-one IELTS or general English tuition or essay corrections, please get in touch, comment, or send me an email, and I'll put my email in the comments below. Guys, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.